Hello and welcome to the podcast of our church here at St. John's German Lutheran Parish in Springvale. Today, our English edition.
We are the German Lutheran Church in Southeast Melbourne, where we also speak English, and we welcome you to our podcast today.
Our topic today is our building project. We are looking forward to talk with Gisela and Frank about the upcoming changes to services, groups, and the building site in general.
And we also have an inspirational word from the Bible to encourage, to strengthen, motivate, comfort, lift you up, and sustain you in the coming hours and days. Welcome, Frank and Gisela. You are our guests today. On behalf of our finance committee, of our building committee, we are happy to have you here and to talk with you today about upcoming building works.
Yes, hello Peter and Tim, thank you very much for inviting me.
Nice to have you here.
Frank, let's talk about the timeline. Can you give us a specific date? How does this year look like from the building point of view?
Yes, I can, Peter. As probably not many people are aware, but the tender process is now closed and the architects are assessing the bids, and we are hoping by the end of February, early March to have chosen a builder. And the start timeline that we're looking at is pretty much the middle of March, around the 15th of March to start the build. Mm-hmm. And preceding that, we're looking at in the first week of March dismantling the playground, demolishing the playground. And in the second week of March, starting the 8th, we're looking at taking out the kitchen in the large hall. So from the 8th pretty much onwards, the facilities are not going to be available.
Okay, so that means on the 4th of March we still have our Seniorenkreis here.
Yes.
Beautiful.
The hall will still be available for that. We're not doing anything in the hall until the 8th of March.
Good.
And how long, Frank, how long do we look to have the building works going on?
Well, the plan and like any building timeline, it does tend to vary sometimes a little bit, the total length, but we're looking at an 8-month build. So that would bring us to the end of October. And all things going smoothly, we're looking to finish by the end of October. But again, there's no guarantee when it comes to building.
Sure, there might be some delays, or it could be even faster than that. Who knows?
Anything's possible.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely. Finally.
Excited.
I really can't believe that the building works are starting after the preparation time. You know, when then it's really happening, doesn't seem real, isn't it?
The moment is upon us.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is getting close, and I think it's very exciting because from the building point of view, we've been working on this for a couple of years now, and so it's been a long process, and it'll be great to see the build actually commence.
I think the evidence too in the next couple of weeks will be the most obvious, because there'll be all sorts of things happening that will be more visible. The playground equipment has to be demolished and the shipping container needs to be removed. So yes, I think it's going to be far more obvious now, the activity that we're experiencing.
Actually, I have a question. It starts on the 8th of March, you said, with the playground and so on. I think volunteers are very welcomed as well to help you guys to disassemble the playground, for example, but also the kitchen. So when do we actually have the construction builders on site?
Well, we would be presuming at this point that, their starting timeline would be approximately the 15th of March, which is a Monday. Which is the following Monday after the 8th, when we're starting to take out the kitchen. Yeah, they will have to erect fencing, which will block access to most of the site. We will still retain access to the church and the small hall. The church will be used also for smaller meetings in that period, but the large hall and the toilets will be out of action. So we will have portable toilets on site somewhere in the car park. We haven't quite decided that one yet, but yes, we won't have access to the toilets that are here.
And is there any coffee planned as well after the service? Are we doing something like this?
We are looking at setting something up in the small hall. We are considering possibly putting in a temporary sink in there to accommodate a bit of coffee and tea after church. So that is definitely a consideration, yes.
Okay, so please don't forget your jumper. As winter is approaching, it doesn't feel like it actually, as we have now summer again, but you know, June, July, it's cold, so
I'm sure we can put a heater in the small hall. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
We acknowledge that there are going to be some disruptions, but we'll try our very best to make it as comfortable and as easy transition as possible, and the elders are very conscious of that.
Good,
Yep.
good.
What happens afterwards when we finish? I mean, in the meantime, we can't really do anything else in regards to the build other than keeping up our regular activities in the church, having regular services, and so small group gatherings like perhaps a Seniorenkreis or Bastelkreis. The playgroup will meet regularly and will have its meetings here in the church. But what happens afterwards? How do we close? How do we celebrate this period?
One idea is that seeing last year we didn't celebrate the 60th anniversary of our church, we could have some opening ceremony celebration and also celebrate our 60 years of being here in Springvale as a community and church. I have fond recollections of the 60s of being here already then, so it's quite a long time ago.
So we have a big celebration, so that sounds good. Gisela, I have a question, as I had so many members already asking, and do we have, beside of COVID-19 restrictions, a Christmas bazaar on the 27th of November this year?
You couldn't ask an easier question, could you, Tim? I don't
know,
really
I
have
know.
a crystal ball, you know. My faith lies in a higher being than just staring into the crystal ball. But look, in all honesty, I think we are seriously working towards it, and it would be our goal to do that. Every effort is being made that will be the case. And as Frank has already indicated, there are so many factors that could get in the way of the project timing. So COVID is only one aspect of that. There could be all sorts of other building delays. As we know, even building supplies are being held up at the docks, which could impact on progress as we had hoped. So there's many factors, but absolutely we are working towards it, but I'm not in the business of giving promises of those sort of indefinite, so it's impossible.
I think it is also, especially with the COVID-19 restrictions. You know, we had the 5 days snap lockdown, and I think it's really hard. I think we need to be flexible in this way.
But we need to remain positive, I think, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
And to keep going as if, I think, would be probably the best.
Yes.
Yeah, we are very focused on trying to have the project completed by the end of October, and touching a little bit on what Gisela said regarding supplies and that. Yes, there could be some issues there, but as much as possible, we have been looking at using local supplies for our build. That has been a focus within the whole process. So quietly optimistic that we don't have too many hiccups in the supply side of our build. So we keep our fingers crossed.
Very good, very good. I would really love to hear that we're starting on the 8th of March. So when you have anything in the big hall or somewhere else you need to have access to, please come before the 8th of March, get it, put it somewhere else, especially when you're a group leader, finishing it before the 8th of March, as after that you don't have access to anything anymore. Gisela, I think you have also a very important note to that.
Well, certainly we've had a lot of work done already in the last few weeks in tidying up and coordinating everything so that we do actually have space to relocate things into the metal garage. And the last super garage sale that we had was a really good outcome, surprisingly, despite the semi-restrictions that we had. But yes, I would follow up on your comment there and say, please don't donate any more items for the garage sale. We're not planning on having one for at least the next 12 months. Our focus at the moment is solely on the building, and it would only hamper our plans to be storing things that we don't envisage we can sell at this point. Please feel free to ask me about contacts to Vinnie's or any other charities that could use certain donatable items, but it would do us the greatest service if we didn't have to store them here. So I'm happy to help out in that regard, but donations are always welcome.
On the garage sale, also Christmas bazaar, so smaller and bigger events were important fundraising opportunities for us as a congregation. Not having them is in many different ways impacting also our budget. If you ask yourself, how else can I contribute other than by volunteering regularly, we would encourage donations, and we would be very thankful for your regular commitment. We know that many of our congregation members donate regularly, and that's a main source of income for our church, especially for the ongoing expenses throughout the year, but also in regards to the building works. If you are interested in this project and this process, now would be the time to contribute to that.
And that has already happened, hasn't it, Peter? There are some people who have taken initiative to make some jams and be selling them, and that's just a wonderful way to be aware, make people aware of the opportunities. There have been other anonymous donations even in the past year already, and we do have a building fund that unfortunately is not tax deductible, but nevertheless we have set that account aside that if you specified it to be for the building project, it would not just go into a general revenue. And in fact, we've seen that also in the other aspects of the improvements that we've seen around here lately. We had some opportunities to donate to the AV system, and there were considerable donations brought in on that sort of a basis too. So it's wonderful to see that people are supporting us in that way.
Yes, I would like to thank everyone who donated to the AV system. That was a great help, and that's really made a difference to our whole ability to now live stream our church services and that. So that's going to be great. Thank you very much. And any donations are always welcome.
And we shouldn't forget even the donations that are put in hard labour. I know that there are certain members of our building maintenance team who have spent countless hours here in the recent weeks, even digging trenches and moving heavy furniture and that. So a big thanks to everyone who's involved in the ongoing work that's involved there.
Thank you. And the invitation, if you can afford to donate, thank you very much for your consideration.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the information. I think we all can't wait until everything is finished. Peter, which devotion do you have for us today?
I was thinking about our topic today and thought about a passage from the 1 Corinthians chapter 3 where Paul writes, "The one who plants and the one who waters work as a team with the same purpose. We work together as partners who belong to God. You are God's field, God's building, not ours. Because of God's special favor to me, I have laid the foundation like an expert builder." It's a nice image to illustrate this journey. And there is this known story. I'm sure you might have heard it, and you can describe it in different ways. One would be like this: 3 men working on a building site were doing the same kind of work. One day, they were asked to describe their work. And one said, well, I shovel dirt into a wheelbarrow, push it across the site and empty it. And the second said, I come to work to make a living, to put food on the table and a roof over my kids' heads. And then I go home. And the third said, I'm privileged to be building a cathedral. The first saw work as a drudgery, the second as means to an end, and the third, however, had a sense of the overall purpose in what he was doing. Now, when Paul talked about this work and that his fellow workers, he said, we work as a team with the same purpose. And that purpose was to build God's building, as he described it. He could have described his work as getting on a ship, sailing to a new city, preaching there, getting beaten up and thrown into jail, and then moving on to a different place. But he saw the grand picture, his calling. He was building God's building, the church. That is what I encourage you to look for in your tasks and schedule and planning you have during this week, during this day in general. Remember that you are actually doing, and that happens in a context. It might seem meaningless or it might seem like chore sometimes, but it happens in a big context. Remember what you are actually doing, and I encourage you, dear listeners, as a congregation, in the same way too. Building or renovating our premises is only one aspect of what we hope St. John's, or renovating our premises is only one aspect of what we hope that St. John's works for. It's only one part of building up God's church, which is not only a building, but a group of people. And because this group of people needs a place to meet, we set out to make that place a little bit nice and a little bit more suitable for our mission. And we pray that God blesses all work that's done to achieve that. Amen.
Thank you, Peter. As always, thank you for listening and sharing. Have a wonderful weekend with your family, friends and loved ones. And we look forward to welcoming you again next time in German. Before we go, do you have a topic or you want to join us? Please get in contact with us. We are looking forward to getting your help and input. And please note, the office is closed from March 15 and will reopen after Easter. Bye-bye. Take care till then.
Bye.